All right, we've got the story of Pecos Bill. Now, this looks like it's a pretty crazy one. Look, we've got a guy and he's got a lasso and he's like getting a wild horse. His hat's coming off. I think this is probably going to be a pretty crazy story. Let's see. Whoa, look at this. Like his mom's getting so scared because all these bears are coming, but Pecos Bill is just making friends with them, giving them honey. It's going to be a crazy story, I bet. Oof, look at this. This is like the beautiful old West. It's like Colorado, maybe like 100, 200 years ago, a long time ago. And look, oh, look, bears are coming, but the mama's chasing them off with a broom. Back in the rugged pioneer days, when Pecos Bill was a baby, his kinfolk decided that New England was becoming entirely too crowded. So they piled into covered wagons and headed west. The clan considered settling in East Texas until Bill's ma noticed a homesteader putting up a shack about 50 miles away. Another crowded neighborhood, she grumbled. Let's push on. And look at this. Like, here's Bill's ma, and then here's the homesteader all the way over here. You can't even see it. Just looks like a little dot. But she's like, that's like too close for me. That's too close. I can't have neighbors that close. As they crossed the Pecos River, Bill threw out a fishing line. But when a Texas trout nibbled, Bill was yanked overboard. Whoa, look, he's just like a little baby, but he's going fishing. Oh no, and he's getting like thrown into the river. Oh no. He was towed far downstream and would have been drowned for sure if an old coyote hadn't grabbed him. Her family adopted Bill and taught him the ways of wild creatures. Like, yeah, he got pulled so far down the river by this giant trout that his family couldn't find him, and now some wild coyotes are raising him. Oh wow. By the time Bill had outgrown his britches, he felt like a member of the pack. Look, he's like a naked boy howling with the coyotes. He loved to romp with his coyote brothers, and as he grew older, he sometimes played with bighorn sheep. Look at this. He's like jumping like he's a sheep. One day, a drifter named Chuck stumbled across Bill while he was taking a nap. Look at this. Bill's like a wild animal. He's just like sleeping in the rocks. He asked Bill what he meant by snoozing in the brush without his trousers. Bill tried to explain that he was a coyote. Horse feathers, said Chuck. You're a Texan, just like me. Bill decided to give life as a Texan a try. He borrowed Chuck's extra clothes and peppered him with questions. So look, he's getting him like, so now he's like being like a wild coyote boy, and now he's taking a bath, putting on some clothes, and like learning how to be a human boy again. To tell you the truth, said Chuck, most Texans are flea bitten outlaws, and the worst of them are the Hell's Gulch Gang. But even they would be okay if they'd become ranchers and herd the longhorns that wander hereabouts. Ranching sounded good to Bill, so he headed for Hell's Gulch, determined to recruit the gang. It sounds pretty scary. Look, there's like, oh my gosh, look at this big rattlesnake. So he's learning about that. But Bill's plans were interrupted when they were ambushed by a giant rattlesnake. Oh, look how big this snake is. It's huge. It's like bigger than Bill. When Bill dodged the snake's fangs, he slapped its coils around him. The snake squeezed hard, but Bill squeezed harder, and he didn't let up until every drop of poison was out of that reptile, leaving leaving it skinny as a rope and mild as a goldfish. Whoa, look, here's all the poison on the floor. And now it's just like the snake isn't scary anymore. Then Before Bill could catch his breath, he was tackled by a critter that was part grizzly, part puma, part gorilla, and part tarantula. They wrestled up and down the canyon and kicked up quite a dust storm before the monster finally became so dizzy it had to quit. Whoa, this is a scary monster, but like nothing, Bill isn't afraid of anything. Wow. No one had ever tangled with these two varmints, and they lived to tell the tale. So when Bill met up with the Hell's Gulch gang, they were thunderstruck. "Who's the boss of this outfit?" Bill asked. "I was," mumbled Gunsmith, "but now you are." Bill told the gang he was going to turn every last one of them into respectable ranch hands. But the men claimed the Texas cattle were much too ornery to ever put up with ranching. Bill had a sudden inspiration, and he approached a longhorn that was sulking nearby. Do you know a longhorn? That's like a special kind of cow with big long horns. Just as the bull was around, just as the bull whirled around to trample him, Bill snagged him with the rattlesnake and yanked it with all his might. Cattle roping has just been invented. Can you believe it? He roped a cow with a rattlesnake. Pecos Bill is crazy. Bill scared that bull out of its skin with a blood curdling coyote howl. The embarrassed creature hightailed it off to grow a new coat, while Bill cut the hide into strips and passed them out to the men to use as lassos. So look, he's got all these new ropes that they can use to catch cows. Wow. Look at this. This is like a wild scene. And wait here, I'll move this so you can see it better. Like, yeah, look, they're all catching cows and like the monster that he wrestled, he's like cleaning their pots. Wow. Let's see, what do we have here? Then the cowboys and cattle tangled in a rough and tumble hubbubaloo that is remembered to this day as the first Western rodeo. When it ended, the gang declared they would be cowboys forever, and they promised to help Bill round up every steer in Texas. Look at this. They're all wrestling the cows, catching them. I guess cows used to just live out in the wild, and then Pecos Bill and the Hell's Gulch gang caught all the cows. Bill needed a horse to ride on the big roundup. "Well," said Chuck, "there's a wild stallion in the mountains that some folks call Lightnin'. Others think the name Widowmaker suits him better. But no matter what you call him, he's the fastest, most beautiful horse in the world." And look, there they are. They're talking about the horse, thinking about how beautiful it is, but how hard it is to catch. Bill went off in search of Lightning. As soon as he saw him, Bill knew he'd found the horse for him. Look at this. Wow. That's a beautiful horse. And look, he still has the rattlesnake that he uses as a rope. Wow. Bill chased Lightning north to the Arctic Circle and south to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Finally, he cornered the stallion and jumped onto its back. Lightning exploded from the canyon, leaping and bucking across 3 states. Then Bill began to sing in the language he had learned from the coyote family. He sang of his admiration for the stallion's strength and promised him a lifetime of partnership and devotion. When Bill was done singing, he offered the horse his freedom, but Lightning chose to follow him forever. Wow. That's pretty nice. He learned like the coyote and the wild animal culture, and then he could just talk to the horse, like, and make friends with him. And then it's pretty nice too that he didn't like force the horse to work with him. I like that he said like, "Horse, you can work with me or you can go be wild and free." But the horse like respected him and liked him so much that he chose to stay with Bill. That's pretty cool. With Pecos Bill and Lightning leading them, the cowboys whooped across the state of Texas, rounding up every last steer. But their high spirits collapsed when they were faced with the job of driving that enormous herd back and forth between the summer and winter ranges. To silence their grumblings, Bill set up the perpetual motion ranch of Pinnacle Peak, which was so high that the top remained in the winter, while the spring and autumn turned into the summer at the base. Whoa, that's that's crazy. I guess they just go in a giant circle and don't the cowboys don't have to go so far. A team of prairie dogs helped Bill to fence off the mountain so that the cattle could wander through the seasons unattended. Bill's plan worked fine, except that Pinnacle Peak was so steep the steers fell right off whenever there was a breeze. The men had to work harder than ever, carrying the cattle back up the hill. Oh yeah, look at them. They're falling down this hill. Oh man, and the people are trying to hold them, but they're falling too. Bill solved that problem by inventing steers with very short legs on one side of their bodies. Whoa. Even in a windstorm, these cattle could stand securely on the slope as long as they kept their short legs uphill. Oh my gosh, that's like really smart. See, look, the cows have like little short legs on the up this the high part of the hill and long legs down here. And now they can stand like that. Wow. Now the men at Perpetual Motion Ranch had all kinds of free time, and Bill became known as the world's greatest cowboy. Look at this. They're just like at the beach having fun. Because, the problem that he was solving is that sometimes cows have to go one place in the winter and another place in the summer. And so he just made it so the cows can just go in a big circle all by themselves. They don't need the cowboys' help. So now the cowboys are just at the beach having fun. But the high point of Bill's life came when Slewfoot Sue passed by on the back of a catfish. Bill was instantly in love. He hollered a proposal of marriage. Oh, wow, he loves Slewfoot Sue. Look at her riding that fish. Sue agreed on two conditions. First, Bill had to buy her a wedding dress with a bustle. Second, he had to let her ride Lightning to the ceremony. Okay, wow, that's oof. She can ride a fish, so I bet she could ride Lightning, but let's see. The first request was easy. Bill galloped to Dallas and brought back the fanciest bustled dress in the city. Oh, yeah, that's very nice. Sue's second request was not so simple. Although Slewfoot Sue was a first rate rider, the moment her bustle touched the saddle, she was blasted skyward. Oh no! Lightning doesn't like people other than Bill riding on her. Now look at Slewfoot Sue. She's going up in the sky. Sue soared around the moon and began the long descent to Earth. Oh my gosh, look at this. She went like all the way up into outer space and is going to go around the moon, and now she's coming back down. She landed squarely on her bustle, but quick as Bill was, he couldn't get her before she bounced back into outer space. Do you know what a bustle is, Malik? A bustle is like a very old piece of clothing that women used to wear, and they put it in the back of their dress, and it had like springs. So I don't know why they did it. I think they thought it looked nice, but so this is why she's Bluefoot Sue is bouncing because those like springs in her dress are making her go boom and go back up into space. Time and again, Sue hit the ground and rocketed back to the stars. Oh no. Sue probably would have sailed back and forth forever if Bill hadn't lassoed a tornado to help him catch his bouncing bride. What? How's he going to lasso a tornado? Whoa, whoa, my gosh, my picture got too big. Oh, I got to fix this. Look, yeah, here's his rattlesnake lasso. And then what's he going to do? The pair of them clung to that careening storm until it blew itself out over California. To Bill's amazement, he and Sue landed on top of his Ma and Pa's wagon. Whoa, that's convenient. I can't believe he lassoed a tornado and that's how he got Slewfoot Sue again. Bill couldn't believe his kinfolk were still searching for a home site. He told them he could spend the rest of he told them they could spend the rest of their days roaming, but they'd never find a place equal to Texas. Everyone returned to Bill's ranch for a wing-ding of a family reunion, and today their descendants are still there, happily herding cattle. So yeah, look at that. Oh, he got everybody. They were going to go to California, but then they all went back to Texas so they could live with Bill and Slewfoot Sue. That's so nice. Yeah, and that's the end. Look, and there's like the friendly rattlesnake that doesn't have any more poison. So that's the story of Pecos Bill.